The one who always says yes, even when you're shattered inside. The one who's always there, ready to help before anyone even asks. The one who doesn't know how to say enough. Do you recognize yourself in these words? If you do, then listen carefully, because this isn't just another motivational video, it's a wake-up call. You've been taught that being there for everyone, being available all the time, is a virtue. But here's the brutal truth. You're slowly extinguishing your own flame, and no one is noticing. Worse yet, no one seems to care. You've confused kindness with submission. What you think is generosity is nothing more than giving yourself up, without defense, without protection. You've built your identity around being useful, accessible, present, always ready to drop everything for others. But in doing so, you've made yourself dispensable. The more available you are, the less people value you. That's the cruel irony of it all. People don't respect what they always have. They take it for granted. You've become a part of the background. You blend in so seamlessly that people don't notice you anymore. You're always there, but your presence is invisible. Now think about it. What happens with the background? It's there until it's not. Nobody misses it because it was never the focus. It was just part of the scenery, always present, never demanding attention. And that's what you've become. A fixture, easily ignored, a backdrop in the lives of those around you. You've blurred yourself out, all in an effort to avoid disrupting anyone, to avoid creating discomfort. But here's the thing. We live in a world that doesn't reward constant giving. It rewards scarcity, strategy, and mystery. The world doesn't care about how much you give, how much you sacrifice. It cares about how much you make people want you. And the sad truth is that you've given so much of yourself that there's nothing left to crave, nothing left to desire. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. He understood that power doesn't lie in blind goodness. It lies in control. Knowing when to give and when to withhold is what makes someone truly powerful. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how certain people light up a room just by being present? It's not by accident. It's by design. These people know the value of their presence, and they use it strategically. They appear only when they have something to offer, when their presence means something. Now compare that to you. You're everywhere all the time. You're always the one who says yes, who lends a hand, who offers help before anyone even asks. And in doing that, you make yourself invisible. You think you're being generous, but all you're doing is making yourself dispensable. It's painful to face this truth, but it's necessary. The more you give without reserve, the less you are valued. Your constant presence has lost its emotional weight. The world doesn't need to work for you. You're always there, so there's no reason for them to appreciate you fully. The tragedy is that you're not making yourself loved. You're making yourself disposable. And in the end, that leads to emotional exhaustion, because you've given everything and received little in return. This is where the psychology of overgiving comes into play. On the surface, it seems like a simple equation. More giving equals more love, more appreciation. But deep down, the opposite is true. The more you give, the less people value you. And that's the harsh reality of human behavior. At the core of it, humans are wired for reciprocity. We like to feel that there's a balance in relationships, give and take, push and pull. But when you give without expecting anything in return, you've unbalanced the scale. You've made yourself the eternal giver, and by doing so, you've stripped others of their chance to reciprocate. The problem is that when people don't have to give anything back, they stop seeing your worth. You've conditioned them to expect your generosity without effort or thought. This imbalance leads to a deep psychological trap. The more you give, the less you get. At first, it may feel good. You're a hero. People are grateful for your help, your presence. But as time goes on, they begin to take it for granted. The recognition fades. Your efforts become expected, not appreciated. And when recognition fades, so does your sense of fulfillment. It's simple psychology. People don't value what they don't have to work for. If someone is always there, always available, they stop cherishing that presence. It's human nature to only value things that are scarce or require effort to obtain. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how much more you appreciate something when it's rare? A special gift, a kind gesture, a moment of attention. It's not because the gift itself is more valuable. It's because it feels earned. The effort behind it makes it more precious. But when you're the one always giving, always available, your presence becomes ordinary. It loses its weight. You've become a routine, and people start expecting more from you without the same effort in return. You may feel drained, but the world keeps taking from you, without replenishing you in any meaningful way. This psychological trap isn't just about giving things away, it's about giving away your sense of self, your boundaries, and your time. When you constantly prioritize others over yourself, you're telling the world that you have no limits, that you will keep giving even if it leaves you empty. People, knowingly or unknowingly, start to take advantage of this. You've set the stage for being taken for granted, but this doesn't just affect your external relationships. It erodes your relationship with yourself. The more you give away, the less you have left for yourself. The less you have left for your dreams, your needs, your desires. And that's the cruelest part of all. You've become so focused on serving others that you've lost touch with your own sense of purpose and identity. You've sacrificed yourself on the altar of overgiving, and no one, not even you, notices the cost. The psychological trap tightens. You give, and yet you feel emptier and emptier. The people around you may appreciate your efforts, but they won't respect you anymore for it. And in the end, they may even leave you feeling like a shadow of who you once were. Someone who has nothing left to offer because they've already given everything. One of the most insidious aspects of overgiving is the fear of being labeled as selfish. It's a fear deeply embedded in our societal conditioning. From a young age, we're taught that selfishness is a vice, that to be a good person, we must put others before ourselves. But in doing so, we have allowed a toxic dynamic to take root, where we feel guilty for setting boundaries, and even worse, for choosing ourselves over others. This fear isn't just about being seen as selfish. It's about the deep-rooted anxiety of being rejected. It's a social fear, one that cuts to the core of our human need for acceptance. As social creatures, we long for connection, approval, and belonging. The idea of being seen as selfish feels like being cast out, as though we would be abandoned by our social circle if we dared to prioritize our own needs. But this fear is based on a distorted view of selfishness. True selfishness isn't about taking care of yourself. It's about disregarding others completely, without any regard for their needs. It's the absence of empathy, the refusal to connect. On the other hand, prioritizing your own well-being, setting boundaries, and ensuring that your needs are met isn't selfish. It's self-preservation. Yet society has twisted the meaning of selfishness. We've been taught to believe that if we're not constantly giving, constantly putting others first, we are somehow failing as human beings. This belief stems from a culture that values martyrdom over self-care. We are conditioned to believe that the more we sacrifice for others, the more virtuous we become. But in reality, this leads to burnout, resentment, and a loss of personal identity. The problem with this distorted belief is that it keeps us stuck in a cycle of overgiving. We keep saying yes to others, even when we should be saying no. We overextend ourselves, sacrificing our time, our energy, and our emotional well-being, all in the name of avoiding the stigma of being selfish. And in doing so, we become prisoners to the expectations of others, trapped in a never-ending loop of trying to please. But here's the truth. Saying no when you need to, taking time for yourself, and choosing to protect your peace isn't selfish. It's necessary for your mental and emotional health. If you don't put yourself first, who will? If you constantly give without receiving, you're not just harming yourself, you're enabling others to take from you without any sense of accountability, and that's a dangerous dynamic. It's also important to recognize that when we overgive to the point of depletion, we're not doing anyone any favors. We may think we're helping others by saying yes all the time, but in reality, we're not allowing them to grow. People learn and evolve through challenges, through opportunities to give and take. When we don't set boundaries, we rob them of these chances. In the long run, this leads to unhealthy dependency, where others rely on us for their emotional or practical needs, and we become trapped in a cycle of overgiving with no way out. Learning to say no, to prioritize your own well-being, isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's about recognizing your worth and understanding that you are not a resource to be endlessly tapped. You are a person with your own needs, desires, and limitations. Choosing to protect your energy and your time is not selfish, it's wise, and it's the only way to maintain healthy relationships and a sense of self. The most dangerous consequence of always putting others first is the gradual erosion of your own self-worth. When you neglect your own needs, desires, and boundaries in favor of others, you begin to lose sight of who you are and what truly matters to you. This isn't just a minor issue, it's a deep existential problem. Over time, it can lead to feelings of emptiness, resentment, and self-loathing, all because you've taught yourself that your value is determined by how much you give to others. The core of this problem lies in the idea of self-worth being conditional on external validation. From an early age, many of us are conditioned to measure our worth based on how much we can provide for others, whether through our time, energy, or resources. This creates a toxic dynamic where your sense of self is tied directly to the needs of others. And when those needs are not met, or when you feel you've given everything without receiving anything in return, it leads to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. But here's the truth. Your value isn't determined by what you give to others. Your worth is inherent, not earned. You don't need to sacrifice your identity to prove that you matter. In fact, when you constantly discard your own needs in favor of others, you're not only diminishing your own value, you're teaching the world that you're dispensable, that your well-being is not important. You're training others to take from you without giving back, and you're also reinforcing the idea that your worth is tied to what you do for others. The more you allow others to take from you without setting boundaries, the more you begin to internalize the belief that your needs don't matter. This can manifest in several ways: feeling guilty for wanting something for yourself, apologizing for taking up space, or even ignoring your own health and happiness because you fear being perceived as selfish. As this pattern continues, you may start to feel as though you have nothing left to offer, that you are empty inside. Your sense of self-worth becomes completely tied to external expectations, and you lose sight of the fact that your value as a person is intrinsic. But this is where the danger lies. When you continuously sacrifice your well-being, you start to see yourself as a means to an end, a tool for others' comfort and happiness. Your identity becomes wrapped up in pleasing others and fulfilling their needs. Over time, this can lead to burnout, emotional exhaustion, and a feeling of being lost. You no longer know who you are or what you stand for, because your sense of self has been entirely shaped by the needs and desires of others. Reclaiming your self-worth requires a conscious effort to disconnect your value from what you give. It means recognizing that your worth is not defined by your ability to serve others or to sacrifice yourself for their benefit. Instead, your value is inherent, and it exists regardless of what you can or cannot do for someone else. It's about understanding that you are enough simply by existing. You don't need to prove your worth through endless acts of giving or self-sacrifice. Reclaiming your sense of self-worth also requires setting boundaries, learning to say no when you need to, and recognizing that your own needs, desires, and happiness matter just as much as anyone else's. When you start prioritizing yourself, you not only begin to heal your sense of self-worth, but you also start to teach others that it's okay to do the same. By taking care of yourself, you send a message that self-respect and self-care are not only important, but necessary for healthy, balanced relationships. Ultimately, protecting your sense of self-worth isn't just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to yourself. It's about recognizing that you are worthy of love, respect, and care simply because you exist. By doing this, you not only become stronger emotionally, but you also become more capable of truly serving others in a way that's healthy and sustainable. When you are whole and well, you're in a better position to help those around you, not from a place of depletion, but from a place of abundance. Machiavelli's view of kindness ties closely to the concept of self-sacrifice. While sacrifice is often seen as virtuous, Machiavelli warns that it can backfire, leading to self-diminishment. When you sacrifice your own needs for others without recognition or reciprocation, you risk losing your sense of self. Self-sacrifice can lead to resentment when it's not balanced with self-care. The person who constantly gives without receiving often ends up feeling empty. What may have started as a selfless act can become a means of manipulation. As you continuously put others' needs before your own, they begin to take your generosity for granted, leaving you emotionally and mentally drained. In Machiavellian terms, this is a dangerous game. The more you sacrifice, the more you become dispensable, a mere tool for others' convenience. Your value is reduced to how much you're willing to give, rather than who you are as a person. Eventually, the very kindness you offered out of a sense of duty or love turns against you, leaving you discarded and used. The key lesson here is the importance of preserving your own boundaries. True kindness involves taking care of yourself as well as others. Self-sacrifice should never come at the cost of your well-being. The moment your kindness is used to diminish you, it is no longer serving its true purpose. Machiavelli understood the dynamics of power intimately, and his thoughts on kindness are framed within this context. Kindness, when wielded without regard for power, can be a weakness. If you are always kind, always accommodating, others may perceive you as someone who lacks authority or the strength to assert your will. In a world where power dynamics shape every relationship, kindness alone will not guarantee respect or loyalty. People do not respect weakness. They respect strength, control, and decisiveness. While kindness can create alliances, it must be tempered with strategic thinking. If you are too kind, you may become the victim of manipulation, used by others to further their own agendas. Power, in Machiavellian terms, is not about brute force. It's about control over your circumstances and relationships. A leader or a powerful individual knows how to balance kindness with assertiveness. They use kindness as a tool, not as a foundation. When kindness is given, it must serve a purpose, whether to build trust, create loyalty, or achieve a strategic goal. Ultimately, Machiavelli teaches that power and kindness should never be seen as mutually exclusive. True power lies in the ability to choose when to show kindness and when to withhold it. Being kind without the ability to command respect is a path to disposability. Power, according to Machiavelli, is a fleeting commodity. It is something that can be gained, lost, and manipulated. He understood that to hold power requires constant vigilance, calculation, and ruthlessness. But power also has a corrupting influence. Those who hold power, once it becomes their primary objective, often become blind to the moral implications of their actions. Machiavelli believed that power should not be wielded for its own sake. The pursuit of power can lead to the erosion of empathy and humanity. Rulers, when focused on maintaining their position, often exploit others without remorse, discarding those who no longer serve their interests. The idea that a ruler or leader could be above moral considerations was central to Machiavelli's political philosophy. The abuse of power stems from the fact that power is inherently unstable. It is easy to become complacent, assuming that one's position will remain secure forever. History is littered with examples of rulers who misjudged the fragility of their power, only to be overthrown when they least expected it. Machiavelli's view was stark. The pursuit of power is a constant game, where the only rule is survival, and once you are no longer useful, you are discarded. Power can easily become a tool of disposability. Once someone is seen as no longer valuable or necessary, they are replaced. This is the harsh reality of political and social dynamics, and it aligns with Machiavelli's view of the world as one where loyalty and kindness are easily manipulated. Throughout history, kindness has been celebrated as a virtue, yet when examined through the lens of Machiavellian thought, it becomes clear that kindness, while noble, can also be a liability. The delicate balance between selflessness and self-preservation is not easily achieved. As we've explored, kindness, especially when unchecked, can make one vulnerable, easily manipulated, or even disposable in a world where power dynamics dictate survival. Machiavelli's philosophy forces us to question whether being too kind undermines our own agency. Are we truly helping others when our acts of kindness make us weak? Are we sacrificing our own interests for the benefit of others, only to be left exposed to exploitation? These questions remind us that there's a cost to kindness, a cost that we must be willing to pay knowingly and with purpose. In a world where power, control, and self-interest often reign, understanding the dynamics of kindness is essential. The key lies in recognizing when to be kind and when to protect ourselves. The idea is not to reject kindness altogether, but to wield it wisely, to ensure it serves us as much as it serves others. Ultimately, being kind should never come at the expense of our self-worth or survival. The real challenge lies in finding a balance, one that allows us to show compassion without compromising our strength. If you found this video helpful or thought-provoking, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this.